Hello, and welcome back to the COVID Longhaulers Podcast, where we share real stories from people living with long COVID, what they've faced, and how they're coping and surviving. I'm Jessie, and I'm joined by my co host today, Emerson.
Hi, everyone. For Long COVID Awareness Day, which is today, we decided to do something a little different. Instead of focusing on one guest, we spoke to several long haulers about what their daily lives actually look like, how their work and social lives have changed, how they're navigating disability, and how their future outlooks have also been changed by this disease.
There are still so many misconceptions about long COVID, especially because it's often an invisible disability. From the outside, people may not see the reality. Many are bedbound or homebound, managing constant physical, cognitive, and emotional symptoms every day, struggling to get through each day.
Yeah, so today you'll be hearing directly from people living with this reality. We hope that these stories will resonate with our community and help others who don't have long COVID better understand what life with long COVID actually looks like.
All right, so let's dive right in. Our first guest today is Aliza, a 16-year-old high school junior. Hi, Aliza. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us today. Would you like to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are?
Yeah, so I'm a junior in high school. I live just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, and I have had long COVID for almost 4 years. I first got COVID in February of 2022. So coming up on 4 years, I actually had a pretty mild case of COVID and I fully recovered. But then my problem started about 2 weeks after that. And since the beginning, my main symptom has just been fatigue, a lot of fatigue. And then eventually got diagnosed with POTS as well. Those are my main symptoms, I would say. But outside of that, I used to be a competitive swimmer and I am interested in medicine for a future career. So that's kind of
Cool.
inspired by this. And I also really love to volunteer. So that's another thing that I've kind of been driven towards when I couldn't swim anymore.
I'm so sorry to hear that you can't swim anymore.
Yeah.
It's such a wonderful sport. I hope that one day you will get that capability back to enjoy that. And can you tell us a little bit about what a typical day looks like for you so we get a
Mhm.
sense of what life is like for Eliza?
Yeah, so I think most days start off the same. Like normally, I am better in the morning,
Hmm.
at least mentally. Like the mental energy is definitely better in the morning, but I normally wake up and it might take me a little bit to get the blood flowing, but wake up. Sometimes I'm super hungry in the morning, so there's that too. But have breakfast, take my medicine, and this semester has been a little different. I actually don't have a first block class right now, so I can kind of just chill a little bit more in the morning, which has been nice, but also hard going to school later in the day for me because I'm more tired later in the day. But we're making that work. I've always loved school, but it's just really tiring.
Yeah.
Um, Normally I come home and I don't really have much energy to do anything except sit on the couch and watch TV. That is hard, but I have some good shows to watch.
Do you have to take breaks during the day at school? Like, is there anywhere that you can rest?
I normally don't, to be honest. I probably should. I normally just power through
Mhm.
until I get home and then that's when I crash. But I've also been on a stimulant for a while and I just stopped that. So we're going to see if that changes. Because I used to take more breaks before I started the stimulant. But yeah, going to the nurse was a big thing last year, especially after I had the quiz or a test. I would just go and sit in the nurse for like 15 or 20 minutes just to reset before I went to my next class. I used
Wow.
to be allowed to sit in the office when I was a freshman because there was a separate building for freshmen, and then I didn't want to go to the nurse because there's so many sick people in there. But
Yeah.
once I was into the main building, they wouldn't let me go to the office anymore. So now I have to risk being sick to take a break, which I think is another reason why I don't do that as much
Yeah.
anymore.
Are you able to attend school regularly, like take all your classes as normal, or are you taking less classes? I don't know if that's even possible.
The school district has been really helpful with this, but I actually take one of my 4 classes online instead of in person, so then I don't have to be in the building for that block. So I'm still
Amazing.
taking technically the same amount of credits as everyone else, but then I can be at home for longer and have more time to rest at home or do my homework while my brain is still fresh without sitting and having so much wasted time in school. So that's definitely been helpful. So I've been doing that since I got to high school. Every semester I have one virtual class. The issue with that is that I'm running out of virtual classes, but
Mm.
we're working that out.
It's amazing that they offer that.
It's actually run by the state of South Carolina, so it's
Okay.
called Virtual SC. That's where I take the courses through, but I do have to get exceptions to be able to take courses that they offer at my school on there. For example, I took PE virtually, so I didn't really have to do the PE part of it. So I had to obviously get an exception for that, but the school has been mostly helpful with that. So,
That's good. We got to take the wins where we can get them, right?
yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, how about socializing at your age? And since you've been dealing with this for 4 years, can you talk a little bit about how you've navigated your friendships and social life with so much fatigue and symptomology?
Yeah, I think overall, I've been pretty lucky in that standpoint. I mean, I've had friendship changes a couple times, but I think most of that has just been like the transition to high school and like normal teenage things.
Hmm.
But overall, I've had at least one friend that's been with me since the beginning that has been so supportive of me, and I just
Yay.
appreciate her. But unfortunately, she moved this year, so
Ah, dang it.
No.
um
Oh no.
But she's still pretty close by, so I get to see her every couple weeks or so. But I think it's hard for me to get out of the mindset that I'm not worth other people's friendship.
Mm,
For example, yesterday there was snow everywhere, and so I couldn't drive, obviously, because the roads were all snowy, and I wanted to go sledding with my friends who live a couple streets over. I'd already walked all over the place trying to go sledding with my parents, and I was just like, I can't make it. And so I was like asking them to come over to my house instead. And I felt so bad. I was feeling like I wasn't worth their coming over. I don't know. It's hard to explain it. I'm sure you guys might get
yeah.
it, but like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm asking for too much almost, but I'm just asking for what I need.
That's a wonderful way
Um,
to put it. And I think it
mhm.
also kind of speaks to the stigma that we've dealt with too, that like, oh, you're asking for too much, you can handle this. And we know what it's like for people to assume that of us, and we
Mhm.
never want our friends to feel that way, because they're so important to us. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry you
Yeah.
feel that way, and I totally get it.
Are your friends understanding towards these kind of things?
For the most part, yes. I have a good group of friends, but my one thing that I always run into with them is that all of my friends are in marching band. And I
Mm.
used to be in band in middle school, and I did like the concert band part of it, but obviously couldn't do marching band. And so it's just been a whole thing since freshman year that they're always together for marching band half the year, and then they're always talking about it. And I've tried to like explain to them it's okay if you talk about it, but I'd really appreciate it if when I'm here, can we try to talk about some other things so that I can feel a little bit more included. But it's hard for them
Hard.
too because that's like their whole life basically.
Yeah.
So I always feel a little bit left out there, but overall, I think I have a really good group of friends.
Yeah, it's like
So
not
that makes it a little,
intentional, but it's like
yeah.
just consequential.
Hmm.
Have you found other chronically ill peers that that
Yes.
you can relate to?
Yes.
I have this girl that I used to swim with competitively, and I've known her forever and ever. And I got COVID a few months before she did. And she actually ended up, well, they think that she had POTS before, but it's just been made a lot worse by COVID. And so we were kind of in the same boat. And so our moms talk all the time, and we've
Oh,
kind of lost contact because she doesn't go to the same school with me anymore, but we still chat every once in a while. And then we actually just started hanging out with these other siblings in our community that also have long COVID. So we have a group chat. We
oh,
go
that's
out for
cool.
coffee sometimes.
Oh,
So that's fun in its
that's
own
amazing.
way.
Just to feel
Um,
less
Yeah.
alone. That's
mhm.
amazing.
There's at least 2 others in my school that also have or had long COVID. I think they might have recovered, but I know there's several in our community alone, and that's just the people I know in my grade. There could be people in other grades too.
Well, it is the number one chronic illness now
Mhm.
in children, right? But yeah, you mentioned before, Eliza, that you'd like to study medicine. So, what are you thinking in terms of life after high school now that, you've dealt with this illness, how it affects your future plans and what you'd
Mhm.
like to do?
Yeah, so I think I've always been interested in some sort of medicine. When I was little, I always wanted to be a dentist. I'm not really sure why, but then I kind of gave up on that at some point, and then I was like, okay, it might be cool to be a researcher. And then this happened. I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds about right. Um,
Mhm.
but I think
Yeah.
now I'm leaning more towards the patient care side just because I've had some really good doctors who have helped me through this. I go to the long COVID clinic at Kennedy Krieger in Baltimore.
Oh, that's a
And
drive.
yes, it is.
Okay.
Um, that was the closest one we could find that
Okay.
was pediatric specific. So I've been going there for a couple of years, and there's one doctor in particular who really inspires me, and she's a neurologist, and that's honestly what got me interested in neurology. So I really think it would be cool to study neuroscience. I know I have big dreams. One step at a time is what I always say. So academics have always been really important to me. So from that standpoint, I would really love to go to a research university or a college that kind of is at the same caliber that I am because I am currently top 5 in my class at school. So that is
Wow.
what I held on to.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, yeah, but I think with the college search, there's definitely been some things that most people don't think about. Like going on tours, we've had to ask, is there air conditioning in the dorms or can we get an air conditioner?
Yeah.
Just things that most people don't really think about with a college search. This is going to sound bad, but I have a spreadsheet. It's color coded of the colleges that I'm looking at with like different criteria that I have. But some of
That
the
sounds
things on
amazing. That
there,
doesn't sound
yes.
bad.
Yeah, but some of the things on there, like keeping track of if the campus is relatively flat, would I be able to easily get around, or is there parking spaces where I could drive if I needed to?
Mhm.
Or one of the main things I'm looking for is a place that has cooler weather. So, because I hate summer here. Summer is
Yeah.
like 8 months out of the year in South Carolina, so I would really like to get somewhere up north. So there's just some things that most people don't really incorporate into their college search.
Also probably makes it a lot more difficult to have to consider all of these things. So I think that spreadsheet is really, really wise.
I think that the lessons you're learning from evaluating these schools for accessibility and your needs are something that are going to serve you so well as a doctor when you're caring for people. So that's really cool. Have you narrowed any down?
I have a couple of schools that I really like right now. One of them is Dartmouth, which I
Mm.
know once again I have big dreams, but I also really like Vassar College, which is in New York. I really liked the campus and everything there, and it was very inviting, I think is the right word, in terms of diversity, gender equality, and disability accommodations.
Sounds
Oh,
amazing. Yeah.
I'm so excited for you, and I really hope
Thank
Yeah.
that this works out, in the way that best serves your needs. So, being in this for 4 years, is there anything else that you want to share with people about your experience, what you're dealing with now, and what you've dealt with in the past 4 years?
I think one of the main things for me is that my symptoms are not visible at all. So I think it's just like don't judge a book by its cover. You never know what's going on in someone's head. You never know if they're in pain or if they're exhausted. And also, the other thing is fatigue is not the same as just being tired.
Oh,
Um,
amen.
Yeah.
of
Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Eliza. Really, it means a lot that
course.
you took the time to talk to us and shared your story with us.
Thank
Mhm.
you for inviting me.
There's truly no good age to develop long COVID, but every time I hear about a kid or a teenager living with it, it breaks my heart a little bit
Yeah.
more. Those are such important formative years that are either lost or deeply shaped by this illness.
Yeah, and those are years where you're supposed to be exploring your interests, trying new activities, figuring out who you are.
Exactly. And so many young people with long COVID are still expected to function like nothing has changed. They're sitting in classrooms all day, keeping up with homework, managing symptoms, often without the rest and support they actually need. And because their illness is invisible, teachers or classmates may not realize what it truly takes just to get through a normal school day.
Right. And besides children, which is heartbreaking enough, but many adults are also living with long COVID and experience this too, or at least something pretty similar, where they are still trying to work, even while managing symptoms that are incredibly disabling.
Our next guest, Libby, is a university professor who shares what her daily life looks like while managing long COVID and dysautonomia. Hey, Libby, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's not great to be part of this disease, but I am very honored to know you all and be a part of the community.
Oh, thank you. Can we start by you telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am 34 years old. I currently live in the Midwest US. I've moved several places in the past years for school. I'm a university professor, so my job is in the Midwest US now. Yeah, that's me.
How long have you been long hauling for?
I've been slowly collecting symptoms since 2020, 2021. I noticed things were definitely off. I've had like gut issues and mild pot symptoms my entire life that I mostly managed by things like fasting and being really physically active. I was an athlete like so many other long haulers before this.
Mm-hmm.
So I started noticing these presyncope like episodes and vestibular migraine type things, weird bouts of depersonalization that would come on out of nowhere. In 2021, that started a couple months after my second vaccine. And I suspect that I had COVID before testing was available in 2020 based on the symptomology. Like so many of us, I went through a battery of tests and everything was normal. And they said I was just probably getting migraines and was anxious and all that stuff. But it wasn't completely disruptive to my life. So I just kept kind of telling myself, oh, these are anxiety attacks. That's why I feel dizzy or whatever. And then things became pretty severe last year, early 2025, when I developed our favorite insomnia symptom.
Oh, no.
Waking up every 2 hours, the constant
Oh.
hypnic jerks. And, that just makes everything worse. And then I just
Mm.
basically at this point fall under the severe dysautonomia bucket with a lot of neurological flavorings. So, I have POTS. It's really bad now. I have the hyperandronergic kind. So I literally feel the adrenaline punches in my gut when I stand up or go up the stairs or eat something that my body doesn't like. It feels like I'm having a lot of blood sugar issues, but I'm still trying to get to the bottom of it. The brain fog, all of that fun
Mhm.
stuff. So I'm definitely not as bad as I was at the most severe of things last year, but I'm definitely far from normal for anyone and definitely for me.
Libby, are you still then able to work full time at the moment with all of your symptoms?
I am working full time, and I will add a caveat by saying my full time is in some ways very disability friendly for me. I do teach a heavy load as a professor. I teach 5 classes a semester, so that shakes to
Wow.
about like 15 hours a week of teaching. But compared to someone who works 40 hours a week in retail or in an office where they're doing social interactions and the same amount of cognitive work under fluorescent lights all day, I have a lot of flexibility. So besides those 15 hours in the classroom, there's a couple hours a week I have, department meetings, have to be in my office if students have questions, but the rest of it, I can be at home doing lesson planning flat in my bed. And the subjects I'm teaching, I have been thinking about working in this field now my entire adult life. So teaching a first year course in my subject takes far less mental preparation than if I had to learn a point of sale system for like McDonald's or something.
Right.
I'm very fortunate that I landed it. Academic jobs in general are really difficult to find, but this specific combination of the subjects that I'm teaching and the kind of lifestyle I can have with it is probably the only full-time scenario I could even do with this condition.
Yeah.
I definitely was not in a place to work full-time, I would say until about August of last year when my contract started. It's not the sort of thing I think I could do if I wasn't already in this field and if it was any other full-time job. It's been a really lucky situation. And just to put in perspective, when I was in my most severe state, I had just finished sending in my dissertation. I had to defend from bed on Zoom because the brain fog was so bad that, like, my advisor had sent me a list of 20 tiny edits to make. Like, we're talking, put a period at the end of the sentence, there's a double word here. And my cognition was so bad that even going from the list to the document to find the page number, it took me 4 hours to get through this list. And that wrecked me for the next day. So, yeah, I mean, when people say they can't do something, we kind of think of, oh, you just have more resistance. You're just tired. You have to put more effort in. You can get through it.
It's incapacitation. It's limiting. It's not, oh, push through it. It'll just be unpleasant while you push through it. It's like, no, I actually physically cannot do this.
It's been really difficult, even when people offer to help me and I'm having those bad days. It's not just I need to be on the couch while you help me do dishes or clean the house. I mean, that helps. But if you come in and instantly turn on a light and maybe you're asking me every 2 seconds where you want an item or whatever, I might as well have just done it myself. You know, it's just the cognitive effort of having to do that many interactions and answer questions is still just as bad as having to do the physical task. And that's something that no one who offers to help and does those things is trying to be ableist. It's just more evidence that if you haven't gone through it, there's just nothing to compare it to.
So let's talk about how you manage your busiest days. How do you manage pacing? Like, what are your strategies there?
A really busy day for me right now, like my Mondays and Wednesdays, I teach basically every other hour, 9 to 5. And in between those hours, I have a free hour. At most, I will do 10 minutes of administrative work. And then in my office, I have a cozy chair in the corner. I've got a neck pillow and an eye mask. It's all low lighting. I shut the door, turn the lights off, run my visible meditation. Even if I don't want to take the time and I feel pretty good, I know that I have to just shut off, no thoughts, no walking around, nothing. And then I go back and I do another hour, you know, rinse and repeat. When I come back from school for the day, I have to do nothing basically. I've done a bunch of meal prep in my crock pot over the weekend. So I have little containers in the freezer that are one serving. So I'll eat my meal. And maybe if I'm feeling good, I'll run a hot bath, look at some pretty pictures in a magazine. If it's a bad day, 6 o'clock, you know, after I'm done eating, I go straight up to bed, put on a podcast if I really can't stand the silence, and that's my day. Busy days definitely involve the most strategic planning and discipline to just do only the things that I have to do. And then on my less busy days, I have to be in my office in case students have questions. But those are the days where I reserve more of my creatively demanding outputs. Regardless of how busy the day is, I have to be really strict about taking breaks. I have to have dinner at that same time. I have to be in bed by a certain time. If I'm going to indulge in something like television, listening to music for fun, really reading a good book, hanging out with someone, it's a weekend only endeavor. I try to remain as much in a recovery state as possible, just because Monday hits, it's a really demanding day.
So, what part of the day is the hardest for you?
Mornings, I'm most symptomatic. So I'm more prone to have tachycardia, nausea, adrenaline problems, weird psychiatric type symptoms. But the evenings, honestly, for me are the hardest because I tend to feel best. And of course, I have to be in bed by like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at the latest. And when you spend all day kind of getting through this mental nausea, as I call it, and then you finally get your appetite for life back and you realize you have 30 minutes before you go to bed and you want to listen to music and you want to watch TV and you're like, oh, I could totally go out and see somebody. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of resilience to know that you are okay. You're not missing out. I have lived a lot of life in my 34 years. it's okay to not do those things right now. And it takes a lot of discipline to not give in. Because anything that gets, even in a good way, exciting before I go to bed is just going to make it that much harder for all my bajillion sleep meds to do their job.
You mentioned you'll maybe listen to music on the weekends, see a friend or something, but is it every weekend? Can you talk a little bit more about how you find that joy on the weekends?
I've gotten really into sending postcards to people. I find really wacky vintage postcards, and so I have pen pals. I've been really into low tech and retro tech. So the thrift store near me will sell VHSs for 50 cents. And I have a VCR and a CRTV, like an old TV. So I've got like just these old 80s family movies. I got Stuart Little, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Big Chill. I just put these on. Am I paying attention to them? Not really. Coloring or writing my postcard, but it's just something different, right? It's breaking out of that routine and just allowing my brain to explore and enjoy a little bit of different stimuli. I don't need very much to be happy on the weekends as long as I can just not feel like I'm dying.
So, how would you say your life looks different now than it did to your life before you developed long COVID?
So, this is not my first time with chronic illness. I had gallbladder disease and metabolic issues in my late high school. Most of my undergrad, I was severely malnourished and sick all the time. And when I got better from that, I mean, I just wanted to experience everything like it was the first time. So, pre-COVID, I was working really hard in my university studies and graduate school, but I also was pretty advanced, like nationally qualified as a strength athlete in my sport. So I trained like 15 hours a week for that too. I go on bike rides with my partner, stay up till 4 a.m., house parties with my colleagues. I mean, I really enjoyed living life and working hard and playing hard. I tell people now that I live like a really, really good 85-year-old lady. And I quickly discovered that the more I tried to assign a percent on how I feel now compared to my old, I kept seeing my life as a percentage of what I wanted to get back to, which was not helpful. So, and this is kind of my weird thing. Maybe it's a me thing or a neurodivergent thing. I don't know. But I've taken this whole opportunity as a time to just engage in like a performance art character study, because I thought about it. Like now I'm in this small Midwest town where a lot of like adorable old ladies live. I just imagine like this 1980s old lady with her old TV and her radio and her books and stuff. And I'm like, you know what? The kind of things we have to do with long COVID are celebrated with that kind of persona, right? An old lady sitting on the porch staring at stuff because she's lived a full life and she's earned it. So you know what? I'm going to sit out on my porch with my tea and stare at a tree because that's all I can do. But like, if I imagine it as like this character study of how can I fully authentically live as this person that I would have never in my life tried to even enjoy being before, what can I unpack with that? Like, how much fun can I have with that? So once I found that narrative coherence for me, it doesn't make the symptoms easier, but it makes everything else so much easier. I've just taken it as a creative opportunity to just sell the persona. I show up to campus in my little old lady outfit that I got from the thrift store, and I've just owned it, because finding a narrative coherence, it takes you from feeling like you're a broken version of yourself to now I'm finding a way to celebrate these things. And it's just about reorientation, get yourself some retro tech and some vintage things, be an old lady. It's great.
Oh, Libby, thank you so much for talking with us today.
I love how you found ways to lean into a new life and find the joy within the parameters that you're dealing with.
And I'll be honest, Jessie and I are kind of like old ladies, grandmas too.
Totally.
When we're not talking about the podcast or long COVID and research and all that stuff, we're often like talking about knitting and yarn and all those things.
Yeah, it's the way to be.
It is.
And
yeah.
I'm a big gardening nerd, so I sit and watch the butterflies and the bees and find a lot of joy in the slowness of just observing nature.
It's just so lovely to be an old grandma. And it's just so important to find things that we can still enjoy with the little capacity for life that we still have. We've got to find joy where we can and celebrate the little wins. But Jessie, there was something I wanted to talk to you about actually, and that is that you recently started to work full time again. How has that been going for you?
Yeah, it's a mixed bag. It's very clear that I could not have done this earlier in my long COVID journey. I've only been able to do this because of the big steps that I've made in recovery, but I still, have an extremely strict diet, extremely regimented schedule, and I have to find time to take a nap and several breaks throughout the day. It is non-negotiable. I must take a nap every day. And it's about 6 hours after I wake up is when it starts to hit me. It's really hard sometimes to fit that into a work day. I'm very
Yeah.
privileged to be able to work from home. So what I'll often do is I'll plan it into my schedule. This is the time when no one can schedule a meeting with me. If I can't do that, if I don't have enough time, then I'll do, I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, the sensory integration break, where I
Yeah.
close out all stimulation, turn on some light piano music with an eye mask, and just do kind of body scans and deep breathing, just kind of reset. My day is very long, but there are lots of breaks, and that's
Mhm.
just how I have to manage it right now. But I guess that's the logistics of it. The actual like feeling of it, I am so, so grateful.
Yeah.
So grateful to be able to do this. I trained for this, right? I spent years in school and in my career building a career, and it feels like such a win to be able to get some of that back. And I know how
Mhm.
how lucky I am to be in a position to do that.
Jessie, I am just so, so glad that you were able to return to work. Having something else that we can do besides just managing our health condition is just so important for our mental health. It's just so important to not feel like the only thing that we are is chronically ill. And I know that there are probably people listening in who are unable to work, like me, and could not hold a job, regardless of how accommodating or disability friendly it is. And to those people, I just want to say that you are not less worthy as a human being for not being able to work. It is not a personal failure or anything to be ashamed of. Um, yeah. Our next guest today is Eddie, who has been somewhat more severely affected by long COVID. Hi, Eddie.
Hi. Hi, Emerson. Hi, Jessie. It's good to be here.
So can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Eddie. I am 30 years old. I currently live in Montreal, Quebec, in Canada, but I'm originally from the west coast of the United States. This month actually marks my 4 years of having long COVID. So glad I could be here to celebrate it with you, memorialize it on the podcast. It was January 2022 when I had my first known COVID infection, and I just never really got better. Then in March or April of that same year, I got sick again with COVID. I was working in retail at the time. Even with masking and trying to do my best to not get sick, it was just not really possible at that time with the Omicron wave and with the majority of the public stopping masking at that time. Yeah, so I got sick again. And after that was when I really started having even more serious problems with fatigue, with concentration. I had some like secondary opportunistic infections after that. Like I had multiple sinus infections that I had to take antibiotics for in the following months. And overall, that just really set my health back quite a bit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about how your life looked like before all of those symptoms started and led you to where you are now?
Yeah. Before I got sick, I was a very active person. I don't think there was ever an hour in my day that wasn't filled with doing something. I worked 2 or 3 jobs at a time. I participated in the gig economy. I was doing Uber Eats on the weekends, or I was walking dogs. I also, for a time, sold my blood plasma, which I don't necessarily recommend to people, but
Millennials, we know what it's like.
yeah. So I was always doing something. I was the master at like batching tasks. I would do my homework on my Chromebook at the bar, drinking with my friends. Like I was just always go, 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 go. I was very physically active too. I was always, inviting people to do errands with me. If someone needed help moving, I'd always help. I'd always find time to do all these things. And I always had energy for it too. I always had the energy to do things. I never felt tired. I felt kind of unstoppable.
How would you maybe describe a typical day in your life now?
My chronic illness, my level of disability has been pretty dynamic.
Yeah.
There have been times where I've been on an upswing and able to do more. There have been times where I've been on a massive downswing. But during like a good period, we could say, I can make myself coffee in the morning, eat a light breakfast. We're talking like yogurt, put some slop in a bowl, call it a day. I could make lunch, which is usually reheating leftovers from the night before, and I could cook dinner. On a really good day, I could unload the dishwasher, maybe load some dishes, but I would never do like the bigger hand washing. I'd always leave that for my partner. If I needed to do something like ordering groceries online, that day I wouldn't do the dishes. My core tasks are taking care of meals, doing the online grocery shopping, and then on a good day, I might be able to do one other thing. That's basically it.
So you're in bed or lying down the whole day resting until you can do those core tasks, and that's your day?
Jessie, I never really thought about it like that, but yes, that is my day.
No.
I am laying down. Yeah, I am. And, during a good period, maybe I can make a social activity work once every 3 months.
But now you're taking online classes. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the online classes, the classes are not through a traditional educational institution. These are classes geared towards immigrants in Quebec for learning the French language, and they're courses for adults. The courses are full-time classes. They start at 8:30 in the morning and they go until 3:30 in the afternoon.
Oof.
And that's 5 days a week.
Oh my goodness.
This is a full-time job.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you get breaks?
Yeah.
Can you lay down?
For us, we're supposed to have a 45-minute break for lunch in the middle of the day. We're supposed to, I think, get a break about once every hour for 5 to 10 minutes. But often the teacher loses track of time and steamrolls through our breaks.
Ugh.
She might say that, oh, I'll let you go early for lunch today because I forgot your break. But then she'll carry on and forget that she was going to let us out early,
Oh, no.
sometimes even letting us out late for lunch. So no, I don't. Some days we get breaks, some days we don't really get breaks, and that's really difficult.
Yeah.
I need to refill my water, get more electrolytes, stretch my, my hands
Yeah.
and my legs, go to the bathroom, eat a snack, and I can't really do any of those things. I can't really address adequately any of my bodily needs while taking these classes because I don't have the time to.
Yeah. Earlier, you mentioned the activities that you were able to do on a good day, making yourself breakfast, your coffee, ordering groceries online. Are you still able to do these things now that you're attending these classes, or has that been limited now?
Well, I do not want to say that I'm able to do them because I am currently in a state of rolling PEM. Regardless of whether or not I can do them, I have to do them. But I would not say that I can do them
without repercussions.
Right. And I think that something that's important to remember is that if we're doing something that's putting us into PEM, we can't actually do it.
Yeah.
So,
Mic drop.
yeah, I still do the majority of those things. I have asked for more help around the house. I've tried reminding, my partner, I need help. If you could help me make coffee in the morning, that would give me an hour of time. Like that would make a big difference. In the morning, that's the hardest time for me. Always. The first 2 hours of the day are lost hours. So for me to get up at 8 a.m. and, immediately launch into these classes is very, very difficult. I would say that I've been trying to accommodate myself as best as I can in these activities. So Previously, I would grind my own coffee beans. I would make coffee, with an espresso machine, like a real espresso machine. But the only way I can survive right now is by using the Nespresso capsules instead of the whole coffee ritual. For lunch, I've been relying mostly on cup of noodle. I don't have to wash a dish.
Yeah.
Or bagged salad kits have been really helping me. And then for dinners, I used to cook more involved things. Cooking's one of my favorite things to do. It's a hobby of mine. But these days I've been doing one pan oven meals with like frozen pre-cut vegetables, maybe a sausage or a chicken thigh. Not anything fancy, but just something that I can get done in 30 minutes that doesn't require all of those additional tasks. Because cooking, especially, I mean, you'd be surprised living like this. You realize that so many tasks that we take for granted as just simple tasks in life, there's actually like 10 tasks bundled into that that you have to do.
Yeah.
And if I can cut out 7 of those 10 tasks, that helps a lot. I wanted to mention too that during my classes, we're not allowed to turn our cameras off. I'm not technically allowed to lay down. I get as close to it as I can with this ergonomic pillow setup and a laptop stand and an overbed table. I use a Bluetooth keyboard that I keep in my lap with some wrist support pillows. And in that way, I can not fully lay down, but I can get pretty reclined using the blurred background on Zoom and everything to kind of give the appearance that I'm not laying down in bed when I am.
Yeah.
But that's really socially fatiguing. I get migraines too. I've had a migraine condition since before long COVID, and having to stare at a screen, have headphones on for 7 hours a day, having to interact with 24 other people, and always be on and ready to respond, because you never know when you're going to get called on and you're going to have to respond to the teacher. There's not really a way to accommodate out of the social fatigue, the mental fatigue that the classes inflict upon me. I have blue light filtering coatings on my lenses, on my glasses. I do use like flux on my laptop, but that's about all I can do on the front of a self-accommodation for the strain of the online classes.
So you're not able to apply for any official accommodations?
Unfortunately, no, it's not possible to ask for accommodations. The only accommodation you can have is you can ask for 2 breaks. So say someone in your family dies or you get really sick. You can say, hey, I need to stop the classes right now. I need a break until the next round of classes starts. And then you get put back into those classes. But that doesn't really solve my problem. That's just kicking the can down the road. And you only get 2 of those before you get placed at the beginning of the process again.
Gosh.
You have to wait. I waited for 3 years for these classes, and I can't wait any longer. So, and I firmly believe that if I had better institutional accommodations and accommodations in my home, that I would not be so severely affected by these courses.
How is it affecting your body during the day and afterwards?
As I mentioned, my level of functionality is very dynamic. It's changed a lot throughout the years. It's fluctuated a lot. If we'd been having this interview 6 months ago, I was in a pretty sizable upswing at that time. I was able to do a lot more around the house. I was sometimes even doing some laundry. Every day I was helping unload the dishwasher. I was doing a lot for me at this stage of my life. And that all changed when I started the classes. I cannot do anything without my body aching so badly. My body pain has been so bad these past few weeks. Even with using the ergonomic pillow, the tech neck has been killer. My shoulders and my back and just everything hurts. I had a migraine for 3 weeks because I had a migraine And I had it over the weekend, and going back to school on Monday, I never had the opportunity to rest my brain and my eyes the way I needed to overcome the migraine. So I was just working through a migraine, full-time hours, and that doesn't just mean pain. The pain would actually fluctuate in and out a little bit, but I persistently had the sensitivity to light and to noise. I had the nausea, I had gastro symptoms, just difficulty forming words, difficulty thinking, which is a problem when you're taking a class that's about learning language. So that has been terrible. After school every day, it's absolutely mandatory that I lay down for at least 90 minutes, preferably 2 hours before I do anything else. And if I don't get that time to rest my eyes and my body, I'm completely flat in a dark room. It's like instant migraine. And lately, just to be completely honest and vulnerable with everyone, like lately at night, I just sob because I'm so exhausted. I think everyone with this condition knows what it's like when it's like a child, a 2 or 3-year-old child who's just so exhausted, they just compulsively, they can't help but just sob.
Yes.
That's what it feels like. And I wasn't doing that before these classes. I wasn't compulsively sobbing out of exhaustion every night.
Are you worried that this level of exertion will affect your baseline in the long run?
Yeah, no. It's tough to say because I've had some very difficult, stressful periods during the last 4 years of this condition. And I have bounced back from a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I think that the extended and consistent nature of this stressor is pretty unique and unique to my other experiences so far with long COVID. And I am worried. It's one of those things where you never know what's going to be that thing that's going to push you over until you've done it. Yeah. There have been things that I'm surprised I was able to work through without a permanent reduction of my baseline. And there are some things that I'm surprised affected me the way they did, even now, years later. So it's really hard to say. I don't want to be overly optimistic or overly pessimistic. All I can really do is just hope and do my best to cut corners where I can to preserve my energy.
Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Eddie. Hearing about the pressure of trying to keep up with something like full-time classes while living with severe fatigue and post-exertional malaise is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, it really just shows that many of us long haulers really have to push through work or school, even when it negatively impacts our health and our baseline, because we get so little support from the outside world, right? Disability care and pensions are often so hard to access. So in some countries, they don't even exist. And when we can access them, they're often not enough to survive on. So many long haulers are forced to go back to school to get a degree that might make it possible for them to have more stability and maybe get a work from home job so that they don't have to commute to an office every day or do a heavy labor job.
The reality for so many of us is that we don't have those social systems in place to adequately take care of our needs,
to
pay our bills, or even support a dignified life. Many also don't have people in their homes who are respectful of their limitations. They don't respect boundaries. They refuse to accommodate. So any way to regain some autonomy is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Our next guest on today's episode is Celeste, who shares how long COVID forced them to step away from their neuroscience master's program and move back home. Hi, Celeste. Welcome to the show. Would you like to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm super happy to be here, honestly. My name is Celeste. I am 28 years old. I live in Colombia, in a little city called Palmira. It is close to Cali. the capital of salsa and rumba. And I've been long hauling for 1 year and 7 months.
That's a long time. So what kind of long COVID symptoms do you deal with every day?
Oh yeah. So one of my main concerns is shortness of breath. It's like the worst. Like I can actually speak for longer periods of time than I used to, but if I'm in an upright position, I start getting this sensation of air hunger. And that was the way my COVID infection first manifested. I also suffer from PEM, post-exertional malaise. So I have to be extremely careful with the energy I spend in my days. I also have thoughts and I have really weird dream patterns and sleep disturbances. So those are my main symptoms. Sometimes I also have musculoskeletal pain. I suffer from pain in my right arm for some reason. I don't understand why, but it's super weak. Like when you go to the gym and get it strained, and it happens when I play PS4. And how is it possible that I'm getting this sensation of being physically strained after using only my fingers?
Yeah.
But yeah, it happens. It happens.
So before you developed long COVID, you were studying neuroscience. What was it like to realize that you had to give up your studies and slow your life down?
It was terrible. It was the worst thing I have ever experienced. So back then, it was 2024. I got first infected on May, and I developed my long COVID July 1st. And first, it was really mild, I just had some palpitations, and I also have shortness of breath, but it was milder. And it took like 2 months to get really, really bad. I was living in this dorm, and two of my roomies brought me food. They took care of me. They helped me with cleaning and stuff. And I say to myself, okay, I'm gonna give myself 1 more month to get back on track. So yeah, I will magically go back to my baseline. I'll be healthy again, and it's gonna be okay. And it actually kind of happened. I was getting better, and I have my second crash that was in October, maybe. So when that happened, I say, okay, now I'm in a really bad situation. It was heartbreaking because I was in my first semester of the master's degree, and I had invested 7 years of work in Bogota, like building my scientific career. It was finally showing fruits of that effort. But yeah, long story short, it was shocking and traumatizing too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm feeling slightly better after 1.5 years.
Yeah, it's really tough. I wasn't in my master's degree, but I was in my bachelor's degree when I developed long COVID and
Yeah.
had to stop studying. You then had to move back home to your family after you realized
Yes.
that you were unable to continue your studies.
Yeah.
What was that then like?
Oh no, it was the worst.
Yeah.
Because when I left Palmyra, I was like fleeing here. I didn't want to be here anymore. I hated this place. I hated the city. And I wanted to have a new life. So it is a really cruel joke of the universe. Like, oh no, you're gonna get back and you're gonna live with your parents and and you're gonna be disabled and you will lose your autonomy. Yeah, nah, it's been terrible. Like the first months, it was okay because I was so bad. I could not think of anything else but my pain. I was just there in the bed and barely being able to watch TV shows or whatever. So I just accepted it as a defeat. Like, okay, I can't do anything else. I will just take it for what it is. Um, but then when I start getting a little bit better, it was really harsh because my parents didn't know how to cope with what was going on. And I believe you have felt this too, but it's this pressure to be functional again and getting blamed because you don't have the capacity to do that kind of stuff anymore. And then your family is like, no, but you gotta be able to do it. Like, how can it is not possible that you're all of that?
How can you live a
Like,
life if you can't load a dishwasher or cook your own food?
yeah, yeah. And I am like, I don't know. I don't know either, but these questions are not helping
Yeah.
because I'm also trying to accept and process what's going on. And if you are in denial forever, all of the weight will be on my shoulders.
Yeah.
And and that's pretty much what it has been for like maybe the last 8 months. But yeah, time changes people and they have seen that this is something serious by themselves. So they're kind of accepting that this is chronic illness, even though they don't want to do it. So yeah, it's been really hard on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's also been like an opportunity for me to make peace with a lot of psychological wounds that we had as a family. So that has been interesting. I feel like this illness has taught me to be calm in the storm because it's the only way to survive.
Yeah.
If I were to panic every day, I couldn't make it. And yeah, it's helped us somehow to live a calmer life as a family. We used to have a really dysfunctional family before. I mention it because I believe that these are risk factors for chronic illness, and we don't tend to talk about it that
No.
much.
So, have you been able to maintain your relationships and keep in contact with your friends from university?
I have with a few of them. So I was kind of popular in Bogota, so my social media is filled with a lot of contacts, but many of them are not close friends. And my closer friends from Bogota, they are still there, but you know, the pace of living that make us feel so isolated. I mean, they are there, but I am not there somehow. I don't know how to explain it.
There's a
Like,
disconnect.
yeah, like even if we try to connect, the physical distance, their responsibilities, and my inability to share those responsibilities has been eroding many of my friendships from Bogota. I still talk to them, but it's just harder.
Yeah.
So I've been in touch with some of them, but it is a weird sensation. It is like witnessing how our friendships are condemned to fail because of one COVID.
Yeah, when the thing that brings you together is like the life circumstance of studying something together.
Yeah.
And then when that disappears, it's difficult to figure out what to talk about and what can you relate about. Before you developed long COVID, how did you imagine your future?
Oh, that's another hard question, but I love hard questions. I used to see myself being an academic, a teacher. I even thought about going abroad and study maybe a doctorate, PhD on philosophy of neuroscience or something. And I also wanted to be a good clinical psychologist because my undergraduate program was psychology, but I put all my efforts to make my career neuroscience. But I also was working as a counselor psychology. So it was interesting. I really like it. I was expecting anything but this, basically.
Yeah, so you had different plans for your future, and it seems that none of them will really pan out the way you hoped for them.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm
But
so
that's it.
sorry. If you were to be recovered from long COVID tomorrow, what would you want to do?
I'd probably want to have sex. I will definitely do that. I will also gather with my friends that do rap and we'll improvise together and I will ride my bike. And
Oh,
yeah, you know how humbling this experience is. It
yeah.
is not like, oh, I'm going to travel to God knows where. No, I just want the simple things
Hmm.
that I used to take for granted.
Yeah.
That's what I want back. That's what I want back. But most importantly, I will take a deep breath that felt satisfying. If I could do that, I will cry.
Oh,
Seriously,
yeah.
I will cry of happiness. Like, it's happening again. Yeah, I will do that. I will do that in that order.
Yeah. In that specific order, okay.
Yeah, nah, that sounds like a plan. Yes.
Okay. I think that sounds like a lovely plan, and I hope that you get to do all those things one day again. Hopefully
Oh,
sooner than later. Yeah.
oh, thank you. So I hope. So I hope. I'm glad that I can share these experiences with many people. It alleviates the suffering.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us, Celeste, and for sharing your experience with us.
Now, thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for sharing, Celeste. Our lives really shrink so much when we become
Yeah.
disabled, and we don't expect to be able to do things with our bodies the way we used to.
Yeah. I developed long COVID when I was 19, and in many ways, I really resonate with Celeste's experience. I was just so happy with where I was in my life, working towards my dream career, and then suddenly I was homebound. I was unable to read, look at screens, which has luckily improved, but I am still not able to continue my studies or see my friends or really even just take care of myself every day. I had so many hopes and plans for my future that I might never be able to realize, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to go back to school or have a job. And there's just a lot of grief that comes with that. It's really difficult to come to terms with that and accept that. And it's difficult because I also realize that I have so much privilege when it comes to my long COVID. I have amazing parents who take care of me and who advocate for me and just keep me alive on a daily basis. And I know that there are so many people who don't have that kind of support, and I would not be able to do this podcast without them. My parents do all the household chores of cooking, cleaning, laundry, etc., because I am too sick to do it. And if I had to do all of that by myself, then I would just be in a state of rolling PEM and would not have the capacity for anything else that I actually enjoy doing, like knitting or the
Yeah.
podcast or even occasional social outings like once every 3 to 4 months. So, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. I remember sometimes during the worst of my long COVID, clean clothes were tough to keep up with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm in a similar position though that I have a wonderful partner that's very supportive. But yeah, support is so important, and I'm so glad that you have that, Emerson. And
Thank you.
long COVID doesn't just change the life of the person who has it. It's, reshaping entire families and relationships.
Yeah. Our next guest knows that reality very, very well. Beth has been living with long COVID since 2020 while raising 4 children and
Ah,
continuing to work full time. I have no
how?
idea how she does it.
How?
Welcome to the podcast, Beth.
Hey, how are you?
It's so great to have you here, Beth. Would you like to start by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yes, I am the host of A Friend for the Long Haul, a long COVID podcast. I have had long COVID since 2020. I'm a first waiver. So I had a mild infection. I went to the ER one time, but have been disabled by this beautiful friend of ours. My first year, actually, 2020 was bad, but it was mostly like ME type fatigue with what I now know is anaphylaxis caused by MCAS. 2021, I had such severe MCAS that I didn't eat for 10 and a half, 11 months because my MCAS got so uncontrollable. There were days I couldn't even drink water. And they put me on an elemental diet, which is toddler formula, but I couldn't tolerate the toddler formula. So I ended up making my own and living on a mix of only what you need Owen protein powder with Floridix, which is a liquid vitamin, salt, and coconut oil. And that's what I lived on 3 times a day with exactly 13 baked Lay's salted potato chips. That's all I could have. It was
Yeah.
wild. felt like I developed an intolerance to the environment where I got sick. So we took 3 road trips to Colorado from Austin. And the first time we got to like Amarillo and I could eat mashed potatoes.
Wow.
And I thought I was going to explode because I'd never been so happy to have a puree. The third trip, when we got to Santa Fe, like 20 miles just outside of Santa Fe, I could smell. I smelled things and I hadn't for nearly 2 years. And I was like, is that inflammation coming down? I ate an empanada in Santa Fe.
So you moved from Texas to Colorado?
We managed to sell to an e-buyer. Within 3 weeks, we were in Colorado.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
if we hadn't been able to do that, barely, I would not be alive because I would not have survived in Texas. The day we left Austin to come to Colorado, I had an appointment to have a feeding tube put in because I couldn't do the formula anymore. And I don't think that would have mattered because it wasn't a matter of my digestive system. It was the MCAS.
Yeah.
And I think I would have rejected the port and I would have died.
Yeah.
You are a mom. You have 4 kids. Can you tell us a little bit about your family and your role as a mom?
Yes, we're a blended family. So my husband had 2 kids from his first marriage, and they both have disabilities. And I had a daughter from my first marriage, and then we have a son together. He's 8. So we have 4 kids. They're 19, 15, 14, and 8.
Wow.
And 3 of the 4 have some form of diagnosed disability, and the 4th one's on his way, I think.
So welcome to the club.
We are a very neurodivergent queer house, and it's a lot. It was a lot to build the family together. I love our family. I think we have a really good system going. The experience has been very difficult being chronically ill, which is a tale as old as time, but COVID being a novel virus and people not knowing what was going on and me getting sick with it so early because it was April 2020. Nobody knew what was going on with me. So the biggest impact to our family has been these 4 kids having to watch me go through anaphylaxis multiple times a day. I have a traumatic brain injury from COVID neuroinflammation, and that has not changed my personality as much as the trauma from COVID has. But I have this tagline that's probably pretty ableist towards myself, which is I used to be smart and I don't feel like I am anymore. And it's not that I'm not, it's just that I can't do what I used to do, which, to be honest, I was doing too much. I still do too much. But what's hard now is my entire family has trauma from my illness, which just adds to my trauma and my guilt and my shame, even though they don't do it intentionally. And trying to, because I've worked full time the whole time. We have 4
Wait,
kids.
the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Whilst you were having anaphylaxis multiple times a day?
Yeah.
Wow, Beth.
Oh my gosh.
Because insurance.
Because you have to.
I had the better insurance. I had the insurance that would allow me the treatment that I needed. And not to disparage, but my stepson's on my insurance because my insurance is also better than their mom's. And thank God that I have the privilege of it. But they can get the services that they need for their disabilities because of my insurance. And it's always been that way because I just got lucky.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would work from the floor. I just started being able to like sit up and work, not in the bed 2 years ago. But what's hard is I'm exhausted. Maybe I have kept myself going and doing way too much because I don't want to have to face the fact that I don't feel good and I don't like it and I don't want to deal with it. And
Boring.
I resent being sick.
Yeah.
I resent the effort that it takes to do anything. But anyway, I always feel like it's never enough. And I think even a healthy person with kids is like, I can never do enough for these guys. I will never achieve it. But when you genuinely cannot give, and here's my message for that. I'm going to plug my own podcast for just a second. I did a segment on a holiday episode with my little boy. And I basically asked him, like, does it make you sad that mama is sick and can't do what other mamas can? And he was like, no, it makes me sad that you feel bad, but I just want to hang out with you. And you
Oh,
put way too much pressure on yourself.
That's beautiful.
And I was like, you little shit, making me cry. His message for that segment was just go sit with your kid. And if it means you sit there while they're playing video games, just be with them. That's all they want is you
Being
to
present.
just be there. The only thing that COVID has given me is 6 years at home with my kids that I wouldn't have had. Because prior to that, I was commuting 3 hours a day because traffic in Austin is a joke. There's one road that goes in and out downtown, and I didn't see them. It has given me the opportunity to know these people that I made or love like I made in a way that I wouldn't have been able to because capitalism. And I wouldn't be able to work if I didn't have the privilege of being able to do my job remotely. And also now I work in the disability space and I can disclose and I can be honest and I can send a message to someone like I did yesterday and say, I can come to the meeting, but for 30 minutes because I'm having a really bad TBI day. And they're like, I'll just change the time. Actually, it probably doesn't need to be an hour anyway. Who
That's
gets that?
That's amazing. How has your family been affected? Has the dynamic changed there?
We have this really interesting dynamic now where the 15-year-old doesn't want to put too much on me. Thankfully, she has a great relationship with my husband. He's not her dad, but they have a really good relationship and she can talk to him. But she'll try not to stress me out by not talking to me about stuff. I feel really bad about that because I had that dynamic, but for different reasons with my mom. And I keep telling her, you can, and it's getting better. And if I cough, they're all freaked out. And if I get what I call sick on sick, which is where I have a cold or everything turns into a sinus infection now, they all have their own like weird trauma around me being sick. So this one shuts down. This one freaks out. This one's ready to call the ambulance. It's a real dance. And then some days I just have to be like, I would love to Lego with you, but I can't even hold the Legos because I'm so exhausted and my hands don't work with my brain.
Yeah.
And it's hard
Wow.
to tell them that when you're a grown up who is a type A and wants to do all the things.
Yeah.
you're kind of put into this impossible situation where I don't even know how to say this, but no one wants to be that parent. But that is a situation that so many long haulers deal with because there is so little help.
There's no help. There's no help. And we don't have family nearby, and we are estranged from a lot of the family. It's so hard.
What does a typical day look like for you now as a parent, but also as someone who works full time and does all these things? And how is that different to your life before long COVID?
The main difference, it's really just I have to do things differently, and I don't allow myself the space to do that. And I'm just starting to figure out, like, I might have to make a list now. And then people telling me that's menopause, not brain damage. But pre-sick, I just did things and I just was with them and I just didn't think about it. The thing that's really hard for me right now is 6 years have passed. So if you think about the fact that my youngest is 8,
Oh, there were
he
2.
doesn't know me well. He doesn't know me, and I wasn't well because I had EBV and MCAS and dysautonomia before. I've had POTS since I was very little, but he didn't know me at max performance.
Yeah.
So that brings me grief because I feel like he's missing out on something, even though I actually think I'm a better mom now because I have to be a little bit more intentional with it. That's just like, for me, the hardest part. Watching them grow up in the last 6 years and knowing what percentage of their lives I've been sick and probably will always now, because the things that happen to me aren't just, let's take a pill for it. I have systemic damage and will always be sick, even if there's a cure for long COVID. There's not a cure for the damage that it caused me. And I think what I actually have now is a lot more fear about, am I going to be here? And how do I maximize this time without exhausting myself or burning myself out to the point that I can't be present with them, which is
Yeah.
where I am right now, and I don't balance it super well. I have a
Yeah.
lot of guilt.
So, Beth, do you have a message for others who are parenting with long COVID?
Yeah, give yourself a break. I haven't talked to one person with kids with long COVID who hasn't said, I don't think I'm getting it right. I'm really sad that I can't do this. If you're having feelings like you wish you could do more, you resent being sick, you don't feel like you're there enough for your kids, and if you weren't worried about it, I'd be way more concerned for you. If you're having those thoughts, you're already doing a good job. It's okay to recognize that this is really like saying this is really hard sounds twee, but it's like there aren't big enough words.
Yeah.
But I also think that people who don't have kids feel this with partners or family or friends. I don't think there's a difference. So I don't ever want it to be like, I'm a parent and I have it so much harder than everyone else. It's just another layer of the complexity, but it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that I'm having a harder time than somebody else who's not able to be the partner they want to be
Yeah.
to someone they dearly love and who constantly second guesses whether they're worthy of receiving the love back because they feel like they don't offer a return on investment.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've been through that feeling a million times, and I still feel that way about being a mom. But if you are even thinking about it, you're already doing a good job. And it's okay to let your kids know that you feel things. You don't want to make them responsible for it. I hid it for a really long time because I didn't want to worry them. But they don't
Yeah.
need to know the intricacies of it. They already know more than you think they do anyway because they're not stupid. But I think that's the key is it's okay just to be a person with them.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can still love. You're still loved by others if you're fortunate to have good people in your life, right? And
Yep.
you don't need to have a lot of energy to love or
Not
be
when you're
present.
loved, not when it's the
Yeah.
right people. And
Yeah.
that's the grief, is realizing that the people you thought would be the people are the people who can't hang.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you're like, why? Is it me? It's not. It's not. It's them. They can't deal. And that's
Yeah.
so hard.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Beth. You're
Thank
such
you
a
both so much.
you're such a lovely person, and you're so fun to chat
Thank
with. And
you.
I hope we can have more conversations like these in the future.
Me too. Me too. Thank you
Let's-
for having me. I really appreciate it.
You and your family have been through so much, way more than any family should ever have to go through. We constantly have to pace and prioritize what
Mhm.
we want to do with our energy and capacity in order not to burn out and be present with the people that we love. And often it feels like it's an impossible choice, like we're always going to let someone down and not going to be able to do something we really wanted to do, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what these interviews really show is that long COVID can affect anyone, regardless of age, where you are in life, how healthy you were before getting sick. All of that doesn't matter. You can still end up being disabled by long COVID.
Yeah, and you just don't know how life-altering that disability actually is if you haven't been through something like this before.
I think it's so important to remember that these stories that we heard today also only represent just one part of the spectrum. There are so many long haulers who are affected very differently and experience very different symptoms. And there are also those who are sadly far more severely affected. I don't want to take away from anyone's suffering that we spoke to today, but there are people who are completely bedbound, living in dark and quiet rooms because they cannot tolerate any light or sound. They are unable to eat normally, dependent on caregivers for even the most basic needs, and these people are sadly way too sick to talk to us on our podcast. We're working on finding ways to include more severely affected people.
In their own words, right?
Yeah.
So that we're not telling their stories for them.
Amplify their voices. Yeah.
Yeah. So despite how serious this illness is, the spectrum of suffering is just so wide.
Yeah.
All of it is suffering.
It
All
is.
of
Yeah.
it is. Some of it is a different kind of suffering or more comprehensive, like you mentioned, Emerson, super, super severely affecting your life in ways that just change who you are.
Yeah.
We're navigating it also, a lot of us with very little support, medically, emotionally, socially.
Yeah. And that's why I would like to ask all of you to donate to long COVID research and advocacy. There is so much important work to be done, but there is just not enough funding. You can find a list of organizations and charities to donate to in the show notes. And I would also like to ask you to support mutual aid and fundraisers whenever you come across them. Many long haulers depend on this support to survive, to pay their bills, keep a roof over their heads, afford their medications, all those important and vital things. A small donation can really go a long way in keeping someone alive. At this point, I would also like to add that if you haven't yet, I really recommend listening to last year's Long COVID Awareness Day episode. This is episode 7, Long COVID Awareness Day, Voices from Our Community 5 years in. We discuss all aspects of living with long COVID, from social isolation, working and studying with long COVID, how severe long COVID is, all these things. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet.
Thank you so much, Aliza, Libby, Eddie, Celeste, and Beth, for joining us on our podcast today and sharing your stories. Hearing from other long haulers is so valuable. It reminds us that even though this illness can be incredibly isolating, we're not alone in what we're dealing with. As always, while our discussions offer medical-related insights, this is not medical advice. Always consult your healthcare team with any of your medical concerns. And if you'd like to connect with our community, you'll find a link to our Discord server in the show notes, along with our Substack and socials. We aim to release episodes monthly, so please subscribe and stay tuned for future episodes. Until next time, this is the COVID Longhaulers Podcast signing off. See you on the next one.